Hello everybody, Jacuzzi back with another video game review, but first, I have some important questions I need to ask you. Are you disillusioned with civilized society? Do you think morality is just a tool for the weak? Do you wish to be unshackled from your prison so you can become the true alpha that you know you are?
I saw her, I've seen her fuck other men.
And also, have you ever played Darkest Dungeon and thought, you know what this game needs? That's right, a pair of anime tits. If your answer is yes to any of them, then I have a game for you. Today I'll be reviewing one of the most visually stunning hentai games in recent years, Dohna Dohna. Dohna Dohna is a dungeon-crawling RPG made by Alisoft, makers of family-friendly titles such as Evenical. Our game takes place in the land of Japan in the fictional Asugi City, which is run by a domineering and all-powerful corporation called, you guessed it, Asugi Corp. You take control of upstart Protege Kuma, who has recently been picked up by a group of misfit gangsters in Asugi City. See, Asugi City isn't all it's cracked up to be. Get a load of this trash can, look at its happy, cloy, and sleek exterior. Looks harmless, right? Wrong. It's actually a horrible killing machine. I just can't prove it right now. You know something else? Asugi actually caused COVID-19 in a lab. Look it up. Don't show the Asugi party line. You'll get assigned temp work, meaning you're going in a cell where you'll be forced to farm gold for an obscure Chinese MMO. Now that I've thoroughly convinced you of the evils of Asugi, you'll understand why we need to burn everything to the ground, right? But how? How do we do that? We're like 5 people, and they control every major institution for hundreds of miles. Well, it's simple. We become what the Japanese call the Toppu Jee. That's right, we're gonna prostitute women. Gameplay involves maneuvering your squad of goons through a branching dungeon map, where you'll encounter hordes of enemies. Gameplay here plays a lot like Darkest Dungeon. You have 4 guys, and in typical form, tanks go in the front, with squishies in the back. Almost every character, though, has some special ability that mixes up this formula. For example, Porno, who typically stays in the back to provide damage debuffs to the enemy, can be moved to the front to suck them off and lower a single target's defense by nearly half. This is really useful, but incredibly risky, so you'll need to plan it out in advance, that way she doesn't get obliterated in the next turn. You'll also need to carefully manage cycling in and out your squad, because if you run out of MP by the end of the map, you'll be hitting enemies with the equivalent of a water noodle. Wait. That's great and all, Jacuzzi, but I came here to make fat stacks and be a pimp. Well, easy there, buddy. See? While you're traversing the map, you're going to find encounters with this icon. This signifies capturable talent. When you have one of these encounters, I'm gonna need you to pump the brakes. To capture a talent, you have to make sure she's the last person you damage in a fight. At first, this is easier said than done, because you don't get the ability to skip a turn in this game. Fumble your priorities, and you'll end up inadvertently sending her to the ER instead of your unlicensed Romanian camgirl warehouse. Now, back to base. Pimping out your talent is a balancing act. See these stats? They correspond to their looks and sexual prowess. When you get to selling your talent, your customers will pick them based on their looks and kinks against the competition. The money you get isn't based on their technique and the customer's income. But what's this last stat? That is their mental fortitude. See, whoring yourself out is really draining on a person's psyche, especially if they're doing it while pregnant. Let it get too low, and it doesn't matter if they're S-tier hoes that can suck a lump of coal through a needle before spitting out a diamond, because they'll be mind broken, and sadly, there's only one thing to do with broken product. So how do we avoid this? Well, we use Japan's #1 leading contraceptive, turkey pills, and scented candles. In Darkest Dungeon, you send your mercenaries to the brothel. Here, you give them aromatherapy. In my experience, I played the beginning without worrying too much about their stats, and letting them acquire customers if it permitted. I bought up items from the shop every day, and hoarded it. Eventually, as I reached mid-game, I ended up with a squad of S-tier hoes, and I was feeling pretty proud of myself. until I reached a point where I ran out of scented candles to calm their nerves and turkey pills to prevent their unplanned pregnancies. That's when I realized I was caring a bit too much about them. I was playing the game wrong. I wasn't a top G any longer. I was actually a simp. See, this is how real top Gs play it out. You gotta keep 1 to 2 of them maxed out and let the rest get ran through and recycled. These 2 will be your bottom bitches, and that'll bring in a nice, consistent cash flow. The pimping minigame is pretty simple, all things said and done, but here's some additional tips to tie you over. 1. Pay attention to story events following side characters because they signify where prime talent is located in the game. 2. Stay away from Hustle Desperation Day. See, the game cycles between events. There are days where you'll get sales on items, and days where customers pay fat stacks. And then there's the dreaded Hustle Desperation Day. On Hustle Desperation Day, you'll get a ton of clients, sure, but they'll potentially give your hoes the wounded or crutches status that tanks their stats. And let me say, it's all fun and games until your bottom bitch comes back as Helen Keller. Hey, nobody said pimping was easy, so watch out. But Jacuzzi, I don't like these themes and elements in my game. They make me feel a bit, Well, lucky for you, none of them are required. See, this game is very clever. In the words of the Old Testament, you will get what you deserve. You will get what you plan for others. Fools will die because they refuse to listen. They will be destroyed because they do not care. The rape scenes are only shown when you lose in a dungeon. You don't want that to happen? Then get good. Shame on you for being a terrible leader and not planning ahead. Your teammate is abducted by an enemy clan or trapped in a classroom? Don't dilly-dally, save them right away. If something happens, it's your fault for being a bad friend. Think the talent you're abducting looks a little too young? Well, first of all, let me say that they're all over the legal age of consent in Japan, which is... Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh no. Anyway, well, the tagline of this game is, let's do bad things together, and you're required to do pretty heinous things. You can at least keep it to a minimum. In the first place, you knew what you were getting into when you saw this color palette, and I defy you to prove me wrong. And lastly, when you're grinding dungeons, keep in mind what your allies' passive abilities are. Your main guy is Kuma, and his passive ability gives 40 feeling to whoever is in the vanguard with him. This is important because every 1000 feeling unlocks an upgrade to the character's abilities, as well as a corresponding event scene. And really, this is where the game shines for me. Your reward for doing well is you get to pal around and bro it up with a motley crew of friends. It really goes to show that it's not all about becoming the top G, but actually, it's about the friends we made along the way. Because if we don't care about them, then what have we been doing? What has this all been for? As always, if you want to play it, be sure to change your system locale and get the game from the link in the description below. I hope you're all having a great day, and I'll see you guys later. 2 other things though. When the time comes, don't hustle porno, or bad things will happen. Secondly, similar to how the Japanese say doki doki to mean your heartbeat, I think Dohna Dohna is an onomatopoeia that refers to the sound of a guy's balls slapping a woman's taint. But don't quote me on this.